Sit right down and I'll show you where my dreams began.
I'm Michael Dugan, your culinary host, guiding you through the chef's journey. Join me at the chef's table, where you'll experience stories, secret sauces, signature dishes, and kitchen disasters. This episode is dedicated to my wife, Carrie Dugan, as she is the creative influence behind the Voice4Chefs podcast, and she's truly passionate about lavender. Seattle area native Renee started her professional experience as a young teenager in a restaurant. She began as a hostess at a local bar and grill in Woodinville, then segued into service. It was there where she fell in love with people and hospitality. Renee moved into the commercial real estate realm after high school. 25 years later, she retired from commercial real estate as vice president of human resources and organizational development for a large P&W firm. She had a hand in forming this back in 2006. When Renee and her partner began to plan their ideal life together, Our Legacy Fields Lavender Farm became the dream. The goal to live a life with deep intention and spending purpose-driven time doing the things that mattered most became a mission. The goal to create a life outside of big city jobs, big city lives, and big city stress became a primary focus. Today, we welcome Renee Ellsworth, owner and entrepreneur of this lavender farm. Renee, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. It's really nice to be here.
How do you connect lavender and food, and how did you discover food at an early age?
Food's a favorite. It's been deeply connected to who I am and more so to a sense of feeling. I have fond memories of visiting my grandparents on both sides, my mom's side, my dad's side. Being into the farmhouse, the first thing you do is get swept up with hugs and kisses and welcomes. And then you want something to eat, baby. Come sit down. Let me feed you. And from a very young age, it was an expression of love. It was, something that brought people together and made everybody happy. For me, food was a comfort, feeling like I belonged, that I was being nurtured, not just by what was on my plate, but by the people who put that plate in front of me. That connection transferred over to me as a lavender farmer now in this new realm, this new adventure that we were undergoing. Seeing the bees hard at work, having a lifestyle that allows me to grow a huge garden and a fruit orchard and a berry garden.
Wow.
Keep chickens and pull eggs out of their coops and bring it straight into the kitchen and feed my family. So all of that is creating a life that I love, but also a life that then loves others.
That's amazing. Any early dishes that you can think of? Anything that really you remember from your childhood?
Yeah. So this is going to be
so many.
Yeah, a lot.
Uh-huh.
But
That's good.
My grandmother on my mom's side, her name was Nora. She passed away, but
sorry.
She lived a long, beautiful life.
Okay.
We could all get to that milestone of quality and joy. Well, we'd be very lucky, but thank you for that.
Of course.
But her famous dish was she made homemade bread, and not just bread, but these beautiful yeast rolls, and
wow,
Nora's buns. And
okay, I love it.
My sweet old grandma bragging about her buns, and it was just always something that tickled everybody, and even her.
Uh-huh.
It's just a funny thing. So, very unfortunately, she passed before we could ever nail down her recipe. She never wrote it down, and it was always pinches and grabs, and your hands are your best tools, and mixing with your hands, and me and my sister, I think, tried to watch her create the bread from scratch before, and what was the size of that pinch? We had no idea. But I think I've gotten pretty darn close, but nothing will beat it.
Yeah, I love fresh bread. We had talked before, but I worked in Woodinville, Washington at Le Courtyard restaurant, and I used to make fresh bread every day. And it was so interesting because it was this old oven, this old kind of beat down restaurant, but is very famous in the area, in the Seattle area. It was a really good restaurant. And we would make bread from scratch. And I would literally be doing 10 things, multitasking, and I would never set a timer. I would just know when it was done.
From the smell.
You could smell it. Yep. You just knew at the right point when that bread was ready. And, I mean, fresh buns every day. And one time I burned them, just one time, but
that'd be big as a house. We have to pump the brakes on it in our house. We kept a sourdough starter for, I think a year, and everyone in the family put on like 30 pounds. It was ridiculous. So we had to.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So as you were growing up, you were really connected to food and around your family. And so tell us a little bit about your backstory, about how you left the corporate world, why, and what led you to becoming a lavender farmer?
Mm-hmm. Really great question. So, my first job was, like you said in that intro, was in a restaurant, and that's where I forged a deep connection to the guest experience and the power of place and quality is queen, and customer service and making connections can make or break an experience. And so that was really important. Then also establishing a value for the back of the house. I was the front of the house in that restaurant, from a hostess to a server, but an intense value is placed on the people behind the scenes, the chefs, the prep line, even the dishwashers. And they rarely get that credit that they deserve. And so all of that appreciation for teamwork and everyone playing a part to create something special transferred over into the corporate arena. And becoming an executive in the corporate arena, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that don't necessarily enter the boardroom or end up on the leadership page on the website. And, they don't always get the credit that they deserve. They keep everything running. And there's I found a lot of purpose in shining a light on those individuals and trying to create an employee experience that they were proud of and could take home to the kitchen table for dinner, and discuss their pride and their body of work and what they're responsible for and feel good about it. So I all of that was really just internal customer service, I found. And in commercial real estate, it's creating the power of place. It's creating, that culture in an office that transcends to a high-rise building, that transcends to a neighborhood block in one of our CBDs, that can create a sub-market. It exudes out of goodness. And I thrived in that environment for many, many years. And it really was time to bring that home and give that same goodness to my family. And it kick-started during COVID, when the kids snapped into remote learning and my workforce snapped into remote work, and my partner became retirement eligible. And we just all were home, and there was a lot of pain during COVID, and I don't want to minimize that pain or not pay homage to the suffering that a lot of people experienced. But my immediate family, weathered it well and thrived. We had meals on the table at a reasonable time, played cards with the kids in the evening. We weren't hustling and bustling the way we had been for years.
Wow.
And life slowed down and we came together. And so, our dream was to create a life of simplicity and deep meaning. And we attached lavender farming to that. That was the way to do it.
So you left the corporate world as a successful corporate executive to become a lavender farmer, to become an owner. Wow. That's really powerful.
At the risk of sounding crazy, I certainly don't minimize the privilege of having the experiences that I've had.
Uh-huh.
I definitely savored all of those moments, and everyone asks me, it wasn't broken. Why would you work so hard for 25 years to arrive at this position, only to
Mm-hmm.
set it down and literally become a flower farmer? And the answer is simple. I created what I consider the best seat in the house at that firm, where I
Wow.
could create culture and create care and love on hundreds of employees and
Mhm.
bring the value of people into big business. Um, it's hard to do,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
definitely my joy. And I learned the vocation and the profession aspects of myself in that corporate environment. I explored what was needed. I was good at it. I got paid well for it. But what needed more attention in my life was the mission piece and the passion piece of finding purpose. And
Mm.
I look back at all the elements of my working life and, did homework, dove into the bits and pieces that I enjoyed. What were the things that lit me up? What were the things that didn't drain me but filled me? And really it came down to creating a place for people. And
Okay.
that was kind of a constant theme through my whole career
How
and
did you
deeply
figure that
connected.
out? I mean, because
Yeah.
I love learning about these pathways, and when I interview my guests, I hear some of these things come out, right? And there's certain things that really charge them up about being chefs, being around this industry. And
Mhm.
so how did you figure that out?
Tough. I think it's
Uh-huh.
in the feedback that I get from people. It wasn't something that came to mind or something I
Okay.
recognized within myself.
No
Um,
test you took or anything like
no,
that? Yeah,
no.
well, sometimes people find it through that. So
Oh, for sure, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And funny you say that because when I was at the height of my stress and my partner was at the height of her stress in our
Hmm.
careers, um, I sent her a link and I said, take this career aptitude test. I'm HR executive, so I'm like, let's
Yep.
let's dive into all the elements and Six Sigma and like let's figure out exactly who you are supposed to be.
Okay.
What value you bring to this world, and then also back to yourself. And the number one thing that came back for her was a farmer. That was her destiny as
Wow.
a profession. I know, isn't that funny? And she has a background in environmental science and then law enforcement.
Okay. Oh
Find
my gosh.
out. And for me, it was anything that had to do with people. And so social worker, human resources professional, the things that I was like, oh yeah, well that makes a lot of sense. My
Okay.
whole goal is to meet people, connect with them, and in that tiny moment, whether or not we're just pumping gas at the gas station, or I'm serving their table at a bar and grill in my teens, or they're
Hmm.
in my office, with a performance evaluation, is to make them feel comfortable and that they truly belong exactly where they're at,
And
because I want that for myself.
I'm gonna pivot, but you make me think of something where there is an amazing exercise that people can do that might be like, oh, what do I want to do next? And there was a guy, I think his name was Richard Bowles, and he wrote a book called What Color's Your Parachute? And a lot of people talk about it, but they may not do the exercises. There's a
Mm-hmm.
special exercise in there that basically lists out or helps you figure out what your transferable skills are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about listing out your top life accomplishments. And I was coaching my sister and a friend and some other people, and literally you write out your top 25 accomplishments in your life. And that can stem from the beginning when you were a kid all the way till, your adulthood until the time you're at right now. And you literally just kind of timeline it. And for me, it's kind of interesting because I know my brothers and sister will listen to this, when I was really young, we started a zoo and we collected animals around the neighborhood.
Oh
And
my
literally,
gosh.
I know I was an adventurer and I
I
would
love
find
it.
snakes and spiders and all kinds of, creatures, right? And some of them we kind of hid in the garage that my mom didn't know about because she would have freaked out. But we opened a zoo and we charged a 2-cent admission, and we had a line out the door of people in the neighborhood and from other neighborhoods. And we raised money for the Ranger Rick Foundation because we wanted to donate to adopt some animal or something like that.
Yeah.
But my point is that you take these stories, and this is one of them, and you literally list out or go through a list of transferable skills. Like maybe there's 100 skills, and you look at every story and you analyze it and you say, okay, what skills tie to this story, right? So the idea is that you take 7 of your top 25 accomplishments and you create stories. And so once you do that, you figure out the commonality in your life. So when you're talking about this is resonating with me because that's the commonality right there.
That's so great. I love that. I had for years a purpose chart in my office, and I would talk to others about it. Even if they might be flailing in their position and in real estate, and they might not feel very comfortable with the list of responsibilities or duties that they were charged with doing. It wasn't about that. We're not going to focus on the struggle. We're going to focus on what you're supposed to be doing. And if we can incubate that and harness your talents and put that into play within the org chart of that company, then we did it. And it was all about having that individual identify what they were good at and what they liked, because chances are that's where they're going to knock it out of the park. And so the you love it part of the purpose chart.
Yeah.
And where the world needs it, there's 2 circles, and where those 2 circles overlap, that's your mission. You love it and the world needs it. That's your mission in life. And then where the world needs it and you're paid for it overlap, that's your vocation. And where you're paid for it and you're great at it, that's your profession. That's where you look for the job. And then where you're great at it and you love it, that's passion. And so in the very middle of those 4 rings is purpose, somewhere in there, in that concentrated passion, mission, vocation, and profession. That's purpose. And a lot of people find the thing that you're just paid for and stay there. But are they weaving in the other aspects that are so critical to making us contented with our lives, happy, fulfilled people? And a lot of people, they are paid for, their profession and vocation are one area of their life, and then they go home and enjoy the passion and mission part of their life, and it's segmented, and that's okay too. For me, it was very much concentrated that way. It was, my profession and vocation. I was good at it. The world needs it. I got paid well for it. I enjoyed making positive change in the lives of other people. But how was it changing me in profound ways? All those interactions did. I always took those conversations home and ruminated over things that enhanced me. But what was I really doing? What was I applying for 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours during the day to give to my family or to set an example to my children? And so that's kind of where we start to pivot in life, was to do more of that.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You don't know what to make for dinner again? You want to explore new cuisines, but you don't have time? What if you have new inspirations and we provide you with the ingredients and recipes? We know you want to travel, learn new foods, explore the world, but life's responsibilities keep getting in your way. What if you can bring those experiences to your home neatly packed into a box? Ladybug Collective is a subscription service that finds real people from around the world to create beautifully curated assortments of recipes, ingredients, and cultural content. Not only do we include cultural ingredients, but also a set of detailed recipe cards with instructions on how to use them. Each box also has a QR code that, when scanned, takes you to tons more global exploration to immerse yourself in. Everything from film to lifestyle, art to history, it all can be found here. Live your life to the fullest. Subscribe now and don't miss out on the next cultural adventure. Ladybug Collective. Always exploring.
Wow. And so that's really what led you to kind of making a decision to leave corporate and move on and start a lavender farm?
Yes, yeah. We began to imagine imagine ourselves at the end of a very long and happy life. And just completely enjoyed to the fullest, and picturing what were the things that made it so rich. And big business wasn't at the top of that list. It was sharing what I had, creating something really beautiful, or creating a place of belonging, or extending that sense of welcome that my grandmothers gave to me, and bring a bit of good to other people, bring some warmth to other people. And what we had was this farm in 2017. It was this like earth-shattering moment where we had the opportunity to purchase my grandparents' old retired horse farm, and that up in Stanwood, which is just an hour north of Seattle, where we worked.
Right.
And beautiful 10-acre farm in this wonderful community of Stanwood, Camino. And, Grandma and Grandpa's old 1932 farmhouse right smack dab in the middle of the property.
Oh, wow.
And the old horse barn that my dad and Grandpa built together. And these fields where the racehorses that my grandpa raised, these thoroughbreds, would run. And I had memories of this place, like deep, deep memories. Our childhood swing was still hanging from the old walnut tree on this property. Like, it was just,
oh my gosh.
I'm sure my Crayola crayons were still up in the nooks and crannies of the branches, right? But it was just such a meaningful place. And after my grandmother passed away when I was 16, but my grandfather had to go into assisted living, and we thought we had to sell the farm. And I drove up to the farm and met with my dad and stepmom and brought my partner, and we walked it, and she was like, "Oh, we can't let this go." And, it was like burst into tears.
Wow.
Like, I can't let this go. It was probably one of my first panic attacks. I never knew that I had such a connection. I knew I had a connection to place, and knew the power of place, but I didn't know what that place was for me on a deeply personal level. I was really good at creating it, high-rise buildings, renovating assets, creating mixed-use development in urban cores where, people could live and work and play and all that stuff. But like this farm, I had no idea. It was its roots were attached to the DNA. So,
oh my gosh,
we're like, okay, well, we don't know who we're going to be when in our retired life, but we know that this has to be a part of it. And so that was back in 2017 before the pandemic hit, and we acquired it. We held it together because there was a lot of deferred maintenance on the property. And we just sat on it, rented it out to a friend for a little bit of time. And then when COVID hit, we're like, let's go. We were in suburbia and it felt really small. And we wanted our kids to have room to run and to breathe fresh air and some space and be up close to my parents who were up here. My dad and stepmom live literally 15 minutes away from the farm. 17, door to door.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. But it was one of those, like, let's just go. Let's get on this dream life of ours. And we went. We planted 3,200 plants.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Called all of our friends and family members and said, hey, we're having a planting party. We're starting this dream. we're going to turn this old horse farm into a lavender farm, to open it up to our public and our friends and share it with our community. And if you want to come help us plant a couple of plants in the ground, you're more than welcome. I'll feed you. Dad's going to make margaritas.
Oh my gosh.
And we had probably, 40 to 50 people show up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Incredible. It was incredible.
Oh my gosh. I could just picture that. I mean, you have me glowing right now. My soul is glowing. And I think other people are probably feeling the same way, that are listening, because that's really powerful story. That's a really powerful transition, that you went through, and a risk that you took, and you've been successful. So tell us a little about your farm now. What kind of products do you create, and what is the experience like if I was to come up to Stanwood, which I will with my wife, because she loves lavender and she loves going to lavender farms. So we will definitely come visit.
Oh, please do. Will
Absolutely.
We would
Without
love that
hesitation.
so much. Yeah. It's one of those magical places. We're only open in July and August. So the 2 summer months, that's lavender season. And so July 1st is when we open up the farm gates and allow people to come in. People come in and park. There's tons of parking in one of our pastures we turned into parking. And the old horse barn, the old red horse barn that I was telling you about, that Dad and Grandpa built together, we turned that into the lavender gift shop. And the hay loft on the second story of that barn, we turned into our lavender drying loft. And so you walk into that red barn and you see lavender bundles drizzling down chains and drying and just infusing the air with the most intoxicating aroma. It's just really quite magical. But we make a ton of products here on the farm. We make soaps and lotions, and we distill our own essential oils right here in the barn.
Oh, wow.
With that is lavender hydrosol. We keep bees out here, and so we have lavender honey. We grow 14 varieties of lavender. So most people, when they picture lavender, they think purple. And that is true, but there are many shades, and including pink lavenders, white lavenders, silvers, there's deep navy blues, and we grow them all. And I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of varieties, and we only picked 14 that we know would do really well in our maritime climate.
Okay, that makes sense.
6 of those varieties are culinary varieties. And that was really intentional. We wanted to make sure that we were sharing not just, the visual nature of going to a lavender farm and experiencing that impact, but also, teaching the differences between ex intermedias, which are nicknamed the French lavenders, and the angustifolias, which are nicknamed true lavenders or English varieties, which those are the culinary varieties.
Okay.
But we're learning stuff all the time. We're constantly learning here, and we are sharing that learning experience with people who visit. There's yard games out in the fields. There's picnic
I
tables.
saw that on your website. Yeah. That's really cool.
It's
croquet, right?
Mm-hmm. There is.
Oh my gosh.
There's cornhole. I've got a stack of Pendleton blankets. If you need to come and read a book and you just need permission to do that, you're going to get it here. We had a couple come out, and the wife is like, he needs a nap and I need to get through this book. And they grabbed a blanket and marched out, found a shady tree, and he took a 2-hour nap out in the lavender field, and she finished her book. And it's like, yes, that's the power of place. We want people to come and get what they need right here.
Mm-hmm. And picnics. I read about picnics too. That's brilliant.
Yeah, you pick. So you have the ability to grab some shears and head out into the fields and cut yourself a bundle. You can cut pure culinary varieties. You can cut, non-culinary varieties that are long stemmed, used for crafting, that are great to debud and put into a sachet, or just a million different things. Just a ton. And every aspect of the plant is is put to use. We even compost it, shred it, and sprinkle it in our chicken coops. There's nothing goes to waste here.
No, that's really good. So how do we find you online?
Ourlegacyfields.com is our website. And I'm an amateur social media-er. So I've got a Facebook page and an Instagram page. So you can find us just by doing a quick little search for Our Legacy Fields. And you'll see that we just put a countdown calendar on our website because I'm literally crawling out of my skin with anticipation for this next season. I'm so excited about it.
Wow.
But we are at the Stanwood Farmers Market, which starts before we open up the farm to the public. So it kind of gets us, out in the community early in June and just celebrating the sunny weather and the longer days with people. And then here on the farm, we're open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So 5 days a week. And we only close Mondays and Tuesdays to weed and mow and ice our carpal tunnel and,
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on Facebook. Find our website in the show notes. Subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen. Leave a comment with 5 stars and stay tuned for the next episode of Voice for Chefs.